There's no one in the world I can share this with. I'm lost, not knowing if I need advice, a pep talk, or something else. My main account is filled with memes and other nonsense, so I created this throwaway because I'm losing my mind trying to cope. Life has pushed me to my breaking point, and I'm struggling to hold on to my integrity. I find myself questioning what the right things to do, say, and think truly are. To start, I should explain that I'm typing this in a hospital room. Yesterday, around 7:30 a.m., my wife and I were in a car accident. I escaped with just a few cuts and bruises. My wife, Emma, wasn't so lucky. She ended up with a crushed shoulder, a broken collarbone, 3 broken ribs, and a collapsed lung. They're optimistic she'll fully recover, but for now, she's heavily sedated. Typing this on a phone is daunting, but I have the time, even if I'm not sure I have the will to do it. I wouldn't be posting here if our marriage was perfect, obviously. I never imagined Emma could be unfaithful. My heart is shattered. I feel incomplete, like a part of me is missing. The saddest part is that missing piece is lying just 3 feet away from me. For the past 3 months, I felt us drifting apart, but I couldn't figure out why. We're both 34. Emma and I have known each other since childhood. We started dating in high school and continued through college. She's the only woman I've ever been intimate with. Until recently, she could say the same. We got married a year after college and had our first child, Daniel, a year later. 3 years after Daniel was born, our daughter Lily came into our lives, and I've been trying to spoil her ever since. I love my kids more than life itself. Without them, I'm not sure I'd be here right now. Thankfully, they weren't involved in the accident. They were spending the night at my parents'. We were supposed to fly to Florida for a cruise yesterday afternoon, but obviously that's all canceled now. Despite my urging, Emma decided to go out with her best friend Jessica instead of staying home and avoiding the snow. She assured me they'd just have a few drinks since they wouldn't see each other for a week. I went to bed and slept like a baby until about 5 a.m. When I woke up, I noticed Emma's car wasn't in front of the house, but we had gotten several more inches of snow. I figured Emma and Jessica had too much to drink and crashed at Jessica's place. I got dressed and jumped into my SUV. Before leaving, I texted Emma, telling her not to drive in the snow and that I was coming to get her. The message went unread. I've often wondered what would have happened if she'd seen that text. I'd still be living a lie, with a gut feeling but not the utter misery I now endure. I arrived at Jessica's condo and parked out front. I checked my phone again, and the message was still unread. I hoped Emma would see it and be ready when I got there, but I resigned myself to the fact that I'd have to go in and wake her. The front door was unlocked, so I walked in and glanced into the TV room on my right. No one was passed out on the sofa. Jessica's bedroom is downstairs, and I didn't want to wake her, so I headed upstairs to the guest room and opened the door. That's when my life fell apart. I remember walking into the room and seeing 2 heads peeking out from the covers. I remember pulling the comforter toward me and seeing my wife lying on some shirtless guy's chest. The next thing I remember is Jessica, Emma, and some half-naked guy I'd never seen trying to pull me off of him. If they hadn't, I'd probably be in jail right now, but honestly, I don't remember a thing. Right or wrong, I don't feel too bad about that. My feelings for my wife, however, change from minute to minute these days. When I came to my senses, the guy said he'd take his friend to the hospital. Emma was crying her eyes out while Jessica and I were yelling at each other. I told Emma I was leaving and that she had 5 minutes to get in the car or not bother coming home. She was there in 3. Driving angry in the snow, even with 4-wheel drive, isn't smart. But it was another car that veered into our lane and sent us through a guardrail. That's how Emma got hurt. The car rolled, but thanks to the airbags, we survived. The kids don't even know about the accident. I haven't called anyone. I probably should have, but this wasn't just a wreck. My life is in ruins, and I'm trying to assess the damage before involving others. I'm numb, yet I hurt like hell, and not from the crash. I feel like I don't even know the person lying in that hospital bed. I want to ask her so many questions, but I really don't want to know the answers. She obviously doesn't love me anymore. No one with a soul could cheat on someone they love. So I have to wonder if she ever loved me. And now that she's cheated, would I even want her to love me again if that were possible? I don't know when she first cheated, but in my book, the moment she did, our marriage ended. The vows were broken. She ended our marriage, and we're no longer husband and wife. I don't need a divorce attorney to nullify my marriage. She's already done that, so I no longer feel bound by the vows I once took. A massive part of me just wants to walk out of this room. I feel like calling her parents, telling them everything she did and what happened, and then letting them deal with her after all these years. We promised for better or for worse, and I meant it, but now we're no longer married. Part of me wants to leave her a note, saying it's too bad that worse came after she destroyed our relationship. The only thing keeping me here is my children. I desperately want to see them, but with the scratches on my face and neck, they'd know something was wrong. Despite how much my wife has disgraced herself and our family, my kids still need her. I thought I had a life partner, but as horrible as she turned out to be, my children need their mother. There are conversations I'm not equipped to have, and situations where a kiss is needed instead of being told to walk it off. I'm a damn good father, but I can't be their mother too. Someone, please help me. How can I sit here and look after someone who has betrayed me so deeply? Should I call her parents to come? What do I tell them? I really don't want to be here, especially with her parents. If I don't tell them what she did, they'll know I'm angry. What on earth do I tell my children? I can explain we were in an accident, but I'm not good at hiding my emotions. My wife can fake it easily, but when I hate someone, it shows on my face. They'll know I'm angry at their mother. How did my life come to this? I know I need to see a lawyer. I've figured that much out. But how do I handle this? It took so long for my post to get approved that I didn't think it went through. I just started getting notifications. So I am sorry for not responding sooner to people who tried to help. Update. For some reason, I couldn't respond to questions from my first post. It might be because this is a throwaway account, but I could reply to comments, though nobody could see them but me. I tried posting this update in the infidelity sub last night but had issues. Hopefully, the same glitch doesn't happen with this update, and I can get feedback to help me better. My apologies to anyone who left a response. It was appreciated and helpful. After my initial post that day, I decided to stay one more night in that hospital room. With Emma sedated and the lights out, I laid back in the recliner, staring at the ceiling and listening to the medical machines. I wondered how my life had reached this point. Part of me felt like I was giving her undeserved mercy just by being in the same room. Yet part of me still loved her. I didn't want to feel that love. I actually felt weak for having any positive feelings for her. Over and over in my mind, I realized there was no fixing things back to the way they were. It was as if a natural disaster had destroyed the life we built. I cried. I cried so damn hard. I realized a huge part of my life was over. That was a moment of huge significance in my life. When the nurse came into the room to take blood the next morning, I excused myself. When Emma woke up, she saw me heading out the door and called to me, but I pretended not to hear her. I went to get some breakfast. I haven't had much of an appetite since finding out. I tried to kill some time eating and scanning through my phone. There was a text from Jessica asking where Emma was, which I left unread. I decided at 7 a.m. it was late enough to knock on her parents' door. Her dad was always an early riser. I planned to talk to him first, and if he thought his wife needed to hear it, he could wake her. I saw smoke coming from the wood stove in his workshop out back, so I knocked on the door before entering. He saw the scratches on my neck and the bruise on my cheek. I explained there had been an accident. Emma had gotten the worst of it, but we needed to talk. He assumed I meant about the accident, so he woke my mother-in-law to hear what I had to say. We sat in the kitchen as I explained how, going around a curve, a car in the oncoming lane veered into ours. With the heavier vehicle and all-wheel drive, I managed to keep us on the road until we hit the guardrail. The passenger side door caught one of the vertical I-beams mounted on concrete. Even with the side airbags, Emma hit hard. She sustained many injuries, but I told them she was stable and expected to recover fully. They both cried, knowing their daughter had suffered, but would still be around for them to love. As soon as they offered to help me in any way they could, I stopped them and explained the wreck wasn't the main issue. They looked confused as I recounted waking up that morning, sending a text to Emma, and heading out in the snow to check on her. I told them about walking in on our daughter and some guy I'd never seen, and unconsciously beating him. They were both shocked. Then I told them what room she was in at the hospital. I expressed that I always wanted them to be part of the kids' lives and hoped we could remain friendly. I informed them that my dad was currently taking care of the kids, but I was divorcing their daughter because she had violated our vows and was no longer my wife. I told them I was heading to my dad's to inform the kids about the accident and that we were splitting up. I intended to tell the kids that their mother had cheated. I made it clear to my former in-laws that while I regretted the way things ended, at least I could say I wasn't the one who destroyed our marriage. They tried to convince me not to make any hasty decisions, offering the usual excuses that she made a mistake. I simply smiled, told them I had enjoyed having them as in-laws over the years, and then walked out. When I arrived at my dad's house, I had so much on my mind that I needed to let out. Entering through the kitchen, I found my dad having a cup of coffee. He only knew that I was supposed to be on a cruise in the Caribbean. He stood up and asked what I was doing there. I just grabbed him, hugged him, and cried like a child. He could tell I needed to cry it out before talking, so he led me to the den and sat me on the couch, then went to get my mom. We both encouraged her to have a cup of coffee first, but she knew something was wrong since I was there alone so early. I first told them about Emma's infidelity, how I caught her, and left Jessica's place. Then I explained the car accident, describing how bad it was, and detailing Emma's injuries. I also mentioned that I had informed her parents just an hour before, so they could go see her. Both of my parents were stunned. My mom finally asked what I planned to do next. They both cried when I said my only remaining option was to divorce Emma and be the best father I could be for my children. As our conversation wound down, I heard my daughter Lily shout, "Daddy!" and come running down the stairs toward me. That woke up my son, who joined us a few minutes later. I hadn't seen them in a while, so I spent time hugging them, happy to be with them. They eventually noticed my scratches. I told them about the accident and reassured them that their mommy was in the hospital, but would be fine. I explained that Emma's parents would eventually pick them up to take them to see their mom. I spent the day playing, talking to, holding, napping with, and laughing with my children. They made me want to live again. Until that point, I was torn between wanting to go on and giving up, but they were worth living for, protecting and cherishing. Emma's phone was destroyed in the wreck, so nobody had heard from her in days. That night, I started receiving texts from my mother-in-law's phone, which I knew were from Emma. I ignored them. They continued sporadically throughout the night, so I turned off notifications. The next day, I spoke with 3 law offices about filing for divorce. Although I didn't necessarily want or need a legal divorce, it would help divide assets and determine custody of our children. What she does with whom is no longer my concern. I've met with 2 attorneys, and I like the second one quite a bit. I'll meet with a third to see if they impress me. If not, I'll go with the second firm's top divorce attorney. Either way, I've removed 3 top legal options from her list of candidates, which is a win in my book. Custody is my main focus. I'm not aiming for full custody, and I wouldn't want it if I could get it. My children need their mother in their lives, but because of what she did, she can never be part of mine again. A mediator can handle the logistics of dropping off and picking up the kids. There's no reason for me to ever speak to her again. I obviously never knew her, so why would I continue interacting with a stranger? I go back to work next week, which would have been our cruise. I didn't tell anyone at work about the accident or the trip cancellation. They'll see me driving a rental car and might ask if I got a new car. I'm unsure if I need to explain things to HR, but I don't want my personal business out in the open. I feel humiliated enough without news spreading. Divorce is sometimes necessary, but it always represents a failure. I'm done being an anchor for a ship that has already sunk. For those who rightly insisted I get checked for STDs, I had a full screening, and everything came back clean. Thank God. Even that made me feel like a pervert in a trench coat when I did nothing wrong. I assume Emma has left the hospital by now. Her parents didn't try to bring her to the house. They couldn't have contacted me anyway due to Emma's constant texts, which I wasn't reading. As soon as I can get the divorce papers filed and served, I can move on from the biggest mistake of my life. Her actions invalidated all of that time. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't. I would choose a life with someone else, anyone else, who would actually be faithful and loyal. Her greatest asset was the trust I once placed in her, and she threw that away intentionally. The transition from having someone to call my own to being completely alone is what I'll miss, but now I know it was all a lie, and I meant nothing to her. People often prefer a beautiful lie over an ugly truth, but I'm not one of those people. Many were curious about the details of my wife's infidelity, who she cheated with, why, and for how long. I don't have those answers, and honestly, I don't want to know. Unless someone is literally holding a gun to your head, there's no excuse for cheating. Breaking a life bond that you swore to uphold for your partner's sake is vile. I wish to God I'd never met her and had taken a chance on someone, anyone else. She had no right to give me a life and then take it all away against my will. The man I was before her betrayal no longer exists. The woman she pretended to be never existed. Update. I'm not sure where to start, and I'm not even sure what to say. First, I managed to get a very good lawyer. Her firm is highly rated for representing men in divorce cases in my area. Instead of passing my case to someone else, she took it on personally. Everyone at the firm has been kind and supportive. They genuinely seem to care about my well-being, not just getting their retainer. Olivia, my lawyer, has been a rock, doing everything she can to help me maintain my sanity. After agreeing to take my case, we went over the usual forms. I listed property, bank account information, and estimates of our incomes. After explaining the wreck and what I saw before it happened, she asked if I had an STD panel done. I confirmed that I did and that everything came back clean. She then asked if I had documented the infidelity with pictures or video. I hadn't been thinking clearly enough to do that. She called a PI her firm uses and set up a meeting for the next day. Since I live in an at-fault state, I needed actual evidence for the divorce to favor me. We arranged for one of her staff members to handle communication between me and Emma's dad and to arrange drop-offs. I got her assistant to inform my soon-to-be ex-father-in-law that Emma could have the kids that upcoming weekend and the following week. Olivia then asked if I had arranged therapy for myself and my children. I explained I had my first therapy appointment scheduled, but since the children hadn't been told anything yet, I was holding off on arranging therapy for them. She assured me that she had several therapists she could recommend when I felt the kids needed professional attention. Olivia expressed sincere condolences for what I was going through, and I genuinely believe I might have found a lawyer with a soul. She gave me a list of things to gather and tasks to complete before our next meeting, many of which mirrored the advice I found here. When she instructed me to buy 2 DNA kits from the drugstore, I didn't think much of it, knowing it was standard procedure. That night, after getting the kids home, I swabbed mine in their cheeks, sealed everything, and mailed the kits off after dropping the kids at school the next morning. 2 days later on Friday, the go-between dropped the kids off with their grandfather for the weekend. I went to work, and upon returning from lunch, I saw email notifications from the lab. I waited until I was at my desk to open them. The first email confirmed that my son Daniel was indeed my son. The second email contained the results for my daughter Lily. I read it, then read it again. I started shaking my head in disbelief. I knew I had to get out of the office before breaking down. After taking screenshots of both results and emailing them to myself as photo files, I went to my car and began to cry uncontrollably. The realization that Lily was not my daughter felt like having my soul ripped from me. I can't describe the pain any other way. I didn't know who to call. I just sat there, wishing I could wake up from this nightmare. I downloaded the 2 files and texted the pictures to my lawyer. Within 20 seconds, Olivia called, asking where I was. All I could say was work. She told me to stay put, and someone from the firm would be there shortly. I ended the call and opened the car door, then began to vomit uncontrollably until I was dry heaving. By the time I stopped, a paralegal from the firm had arrived to pick me up. She took me to the office, and as soon as Olivia finished with a client, they ushered me into her office. The first thing Olivia told me was that sometimes the tests come back wrong. She understood I was upset and had every right to be, but she urged me to retest Lily and myself in a local lab to ensure there was no contamination. I couldn't believe what was happening. Even after catching Emma cheating, I initially assumed the DNA test on the kids was just a formality. I never imagined my wife would be unfaithful, let alone capable of having another man's baby. Who the hell did I marry? I couldn't confront Emma without concrete proof, and I dreaded the conversation if the results confirmed our suspicions. One of the ladies at the firm checked my blood pressure to ensure it wasn't dangerously high. It was elevated, and I felt on the verge of a panic attack. Yet, I was numb and in shock at the same time. I struggled with the possibility that my little girl might never have been mine. At that moment, I was grateful the kids were staying with their mom. I started wondering if both tests could be wrong. What if Lily was my daughter, and Daniel wasn't my son. I couldn't wait 2 days to know the truth. The go-between arranged to pick Lily up the next day for a few hours to conduct the test in a sterile environment with trained medical staff. There was no mix-up. I am not Lily's father. It took a day to get the results, and Lily was back with her mom by the time I received them. But I cried even harder the second time and was thankful Lily wasn't there to see it. I sent the results to my lawyer, who called to check on me. She urged me to seek out family support and not go through this alone. I drove to my dad's house, crying the whole way. When I arrived and saw my mom, she knew something was wrong, but couldn't get it out of me. Finally, I managed to say, "Lily is not my daughter." My mom was stunned. She called my dad, telling him to hurry home but to be careful, hinting that I had bad news. He wanted to know more, but she insisted he get home safely first. He arrived in about 20 minutes, and we all cried for hours. I'd console my dad, he'd console my mom, and they'd console me, but we were all inconsolable. They asked about Daniel, and I assured them he was mine. They felt relief, but also guilt for being relieved to only be losing one grandchild. They asked what I planned to do next. I didn't know. The only certainty was that Lily would never want for anything she needed, or most things she wanted. Potential child support didn't concern me at that moment. I was committed to taking care of her. As horrible as I felt for myself, I felt even worse for Lily. She was completely innocent. Did I want custody of her? Could I even get custody if I wanted it? I began to wonder if Emma knew or suspected. I suddenly wanted answers. After work on Monday, I met with Olivia, who had met with the private detective following Emma. Due to the wreck, Emma hadn't been out of the house, so there was no recent evidence of cheating. However, the PI accessed Emma's old cell phone and found nudes sent and received, messages and sexting with various men, enough evidence to sway any judge. Olivia asked if I wanted to see the pictures or read the texts. I declined, but we needed to plan how to confront Emma about Lily. Olivia suggested doing it in her office if Emma could be persuaded to come. She called Emma's mom's cell in front of me. Hearing Emma's voice for the first time since the hospital was jarring. Olivia got straight to the point, telling her we needed to meet to discuss some things. Emma said she had been waiting and wanting to talk. She agreed to come the next afternoon. The next day at work was torture. I struggled to hold back tears and pretend to be productive. I barely managed to eat lunch, but I left at 3 p.m. and headed to the firm, feeling nauseous. I arrived first intentionally, wanting Emma to be forced to enter and sit away from the door, unable to approach me. I was scrolling through pictures of our supposed perfect family when she came in. She needed assistance walking, still in 2 casts from the wreck. I didn't have to worry about her trying for a hug. She might have been playing it up for sympathy, but the wreck was indeed bad. I wanted her to sit down so I could ask her to explain herself. Once we were all seated, water was offered, and the meeting began. Olivia started by asking Emma if she was okay with us recording the session. She agreed. As soon as we started recording, my soon-to-be ex-wife tried to apologize. I bluntly interrupted her and asked point-blank how many men she had cheated on me with and when it started. There were enough confirmed hookups from the PI to know the guy I caught her with wasn't the first by a long shot. Emma didn't know what we knew, so to minimize the damage, she only admitted to what she thought I knew. I asked her again, roughly how many men had she slept with since our son was born. That specific time frame gave her pause, but she continued to act clueless. She still thought it was all a game, and I was losing my cool. Olivia gently placed her hand on my shoulder and pushed me back from the table. She then asked Emma if I was a good father. Emma quickly gave me a glowing review, saying she couldn't ask for a better father to raise her children. Hearing her say her children made me want to flip the table. Olivia then asked Emma if the other father of her child was going to be a good dad too. As Emma asked what other father she was talking about, Olivia slid the paternity results for Lily across the table. As much as I hated what my life had become since discovering her cheating, I needed to see her reaction in person. Emma was obviously shocked to learn Lily wasn't mine. She tried to hit me with the whole, "You're the father who raised her," but I shut that down quickly. I demanded to know who Lily's father was. She looked down with a hint of shame and admitted she didn't know for sure. Seeing me break down in tears for the first time, she saw the full impact of her betrayal. Emma tried to explain, reminding me of the postpartum depression she went through after Daniel was born. I did everything I could to be supportive, spending every moment I could looking after our son so she could have time for herself. There were days she was so depressed she couldn't get out of bed, and I took care of all of us. I loved doing it for the family I thought we had. I naively believed that overcoming those tough times had made our relationship stronger. She didn't blame it on Jessica, but mentioned how grateful she was when Jessica got her to go out for a few girls' nights. Emma said she got really drunk the second time they went out and ended up with some guy. She said she felt guilty for months, but began to resent not being able to be young and free. She admitted she started hooking up with guys on her nights out with Jessica. She insisted she always used protection and never slept with the same guy more than 3 times. She claimed she just wanted sex without any emotional attachment. I was dumbfounded. Discovering that your wife is a deceitful, promiscuous liar is like finding out your life is a reality show you never signed up for. I wanted to yell at her, but I was too busy calculating how many men she might have cheated with over the years. Olivia asked her if she had any idea who Lily's father might be, but Emma swore she always assumed Lily was mine. Olivia pointed out that something must have gone wrong, suggesting maybe a condom broke. Emma confessed it did happen a few times with a few guys. I lost it. I asked her who she was because I didn't recognize the person in front of me. I demanded to know when she started hating me and why. What had I ever done to deserve this? How could she do this to her daughter? I raged. She took it all, knowing it was true. After what she just told me and how I felt about her, divorce was inevitable. Our marriage was scorched earth. The only thing left was to tally up the casualties. I've lost a wife and a daughter. Emma has lost a husband. Our daughter has lost a father, and our son has had his sister turned into a half-sibling. Then there are the grandparents and in-laws. Emma essentially destroyed 2 entire families. Her parents will be devastated when they learn what she was doing, and I swear I will show them all the evidence the PI finds. Emma admitted to using dating apps and hooking up with men during girl time with Jessica. She claimed she never meant to hurt me and had no idea Lily wasn't mine. I believed her because I had no idea either, but DNA doesn't lie. I asked why she didn't just divorce me. She said she didn't want to lose the security I provided. She cried as she said it, but my expression was one of pure scorn. I was disgusted by the person sitting across from me. I felt used, humiliated, and emasculated. I felt defeated. I'm pretty sure one of the reasons she came without a lawyer is because she knows I own everything. She doesn't have much to lose besides a small 401k. I entered the marriage with significant assets, having inherited my grandfather's estate when I was 14. The woman I call Mom is not my biological mother. My real mother died when I was 2 from a rare aggressive cancer. My dad remarried the woman I called Mom when I was 4. I've always known she wasn't my biological mother, and she couldn't have children, so raising me was a blessing for her. When my biological mother's dad died, his estate went to me as her heir, but I couldn't access it until I was 21. I studied hard and went to school, but I don't need to work. Financially, she knows I will dominate in the divorce, and she won't get anywhere near half. She has a job, and though she's unable to work with her current injuries, she is employed. Part of me wants to punish her, and the other part just wants to be done with her. Emma was clearly medicated for pain, which might explain her bluntness, but her words cut deeply, worsened by my imagination. I asked if she felt any shame. She claimed she did. I demanded to know how we were going to find out who Lily's father actually is. She tried the "I already know who the father is" nonsense, but I wasn't in the mood for philosophical discussions about fatherhood. Whoever Lily's father is deserves to know, and she needs to know for health reasons. The PI's evidence didn't go back far enough to cover before Lily was born. I asked if she had any of these men's contact information. She had the audacity to say she didn't keep their numbers to avoid seeing them again. I told her she should have kept his number to inform him about the child or a possible STD. I want my name off Lily's birth certificate. DNA proves she's not my child. I'll support her financially out of my own will long past her turning 18, but I won't be legally tied to her. As for my son, I'm unsure what to do. Before the paternity test, I aimed for a 90-10 custody arrangement, giving my ex-wife 1 weekend a month and certain holidays. Now that Lily isn't mine, I don't feel right about pursuing custody for her even if I could get it. Daniel is her half-brother, and I don't want to take him from her too. I don't want either of them to suffer, but I haven't seen Lily since the test results, and I can't let her see me break down because of them. Her therapy costs will be on me, but I will pay for it. My therapy alone will be enough to fund a shrink's new beach house. Driving home after the meeting, I seriously contemplated ending it all. It seemed like the easiest solution for everyone but me. Both families could pretend about paternity. My ex could live off my grandfather's money, and the kids wouldn't have to deal with a broken marriage or failed relationships. But by the time I got home, I decided, to hell with that. Olivia is drawing up divorce papers and legal paperwork to declare me not Lily's father. This will drag things out longer, but I want no legal grounds forcing me to interact with, pay for, or deal with children who aren't mine. The legal team is researching ways to find out who Lily's father is. Many ancestry sites suggest potential relatives when results come back. That's our first plan of action. Even if the results don't point to an individual, they might lead to a relative. The guy might not be ready to accept a child he didn't know about, but he won't feel the terror I felt losing a daughter who never existed. Everything is so screwed up at the moment. Nothing is stable. Chaos is a daily burden now. The kids come back Sunday afternoon. I've never not wanted to see them before, but I know I'll face inevitable moments I'm unprepared for. When she sees me and wants to hug her daddy, I don't know how I'll react. Hug her and cry, knowing she's never truly been mine. Tell her I'm not who she thinks I am? I don't have it in me to be mean to her, but my heart is broken. There's no one to take this out on, not even Emma. Nothing I do, short of murder, will equal the betrayal she inflicted. That scale will never balance. She used me and spit me out. She deserves to rot in hell for her promiscuous, lying ways. I'm destroyed, and everything I loved is too. I will win the divorce. Olivia and her team will make it the most lopsided division of assets in history. But Emma has already devalued so much of my life that it feels like she's already won. To hell with her. I'm left with a son she will try to use against me and manipulate. Some people are so despicable that they deserve to be put down like an animal. I made the terrible decision to have a child with one of them. Now I realize I'm not the only fool here. Final update. Reunion. The go-between from the law firm texted me at 3 p.m. Sunday to let me know she had the kids in the car with their belongings and was on her way to the house. I've never dreaded a text message more in my life. Just weeks ago, I would have been eagerly awaiting that text, smiling at the thought of seeing my kids again. But now, a reunion I had once yearned for filled me with dread. I had no plans to mention divorce, paternity, or any issues with the kids. As much as I tried to prepare myself, I knew I wasn't in the right state of mind to bring any of that up. I wanted things to go as normally as possible, like when they stayed with grandparents while Emma and I were on vacation. That's what I hoped for, but I knew reality would be entirely different, and I had little control over it. Jessica, the intern from the firm, pulled into the driveway. I watched them arrive from the front bay window. I walked outside and down the steps as the car came to a stop. I forced a smile as I approached the passenger side of Jessica's car. As soon as I saw Lily in her car seat beaming a huge smile at me, I started crying. Oh, I was still smiling, but tears streamed down my face. I just hoped that maintaining a smile might convince the kids and myself that everything was okay. Wish it had a plan B. As soon as I got her out of the car seat, Daniel was by my side, and I hugged both of them tightly. I told them I missed them. That was all I could manage to say. I just kept crying. People can judge me all they want. I've received plenty of hate-filled messages, both privately and publicly, but it all felt different. It didn't feel the same as the day I hugged my children goodbye. I want to say it did, just to get the people who think I'm a loathsome wretch off my back. Maybe part of the loss I was feeling was over the destruction of the family unit we all used to know. My heart was just flat out broken. Seeing them and knowing Lily isn't mine broke my heart all over again. This is what my life has become. Every single damn day, there's a new heartbreak. I learn more about the extremes of Emma's cheating. I discover pain I can't shield the kids from. I'm reminded of the past bonds, knowing they were all built on lies. I keep backing away from the chaos that started when I caught Emma cheating, but I keep getting hit with stray boulders of betrayal daily, learning how deeply I was deceived. Jessica was a saint, helping me get the kids into the house. I grabbed all their belongings like a pack mule, and she closed the doors and trunk. As soon as I placed their bags down on the floor, I turned to see Lily looking up at me. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me with those eyes. like she knew I was the one who needed the hug. I squatted down and she walked into my arms and hugged me as tightly as she could. That child broke me. I wanted to be strong, but no kid should hear a parent cry like that. Everyone keeps insisting I do what will damage the kids the least. That's great advice, even logical, but what if everything damages them? What if there's no way to avoid the damage? Allowing her to see a source of strength and security destroyed must be damaging her. How could it not be? If I abandoned her, it would destroy her. Yet by staying in her life, I am also causing her harm. A 6-year-old shouldn't have to console a grown man, especially for something that wasn't her fault. My soul was seething with rage toward Emma at that moment. But the little girl she lied about, telling me she was mine, showed me love the only way she knew how and kept hugging. The truth hit me hard. She and I are both victims. As the adult, I'm supposed to handle it better. She doesn't even know she's been victimized yet. Just like survivors of a plane crash, we survived, but it will leave scars on our souls. As the survivors, we need to stick together and be there for each other because we're going through the same hell. Yes, very different perspectives, but at that moment, I was feeling the loss and sparing her much of the pain by taking it upon myself. I've been thinking of this as Emma taking my daughter from me, but it's just as true to say Emma took her father from her. The villain in this story is Emma. I'm done feeling guilty for anything I feel right now. There is no handbook for this. Reddit can offer advice for dealing with cheating and divorce, but there's no guide for finding out the daughter you raised was never yours. The pain of losing Lily is unbearable, but I need to be strong for her and Daniel. I need to be their rock, even if I'm crumbling inside. Emma's actions have left a trail of devastation, but I won't let her destroy the future for me and the kids. Get the hell out of here with that crap. No one can tell me how I should feel or react. The only analogy I can give is children switched at birth. That's a couple facing that together. They were both deceived. They both find out the child they were told was theirs by blood is actually someone else's. Unless you've endured that, or what I'm going through right now, you can't grasp how it feels. After about half an hour, I managed to pull myself together. Jessica left after getting a hug from all three of us. I handed her a small envelope with $500 inside and told her it was for gas, even though she drives an EV and knew it wasn't for gas. I lilied Lily around in my arms as Daniel showed me some of the things he'd helped make with his grandfather. Lily kept her arms around my neck, proudly telling me she helped stain some of the wood. We played our usual I don't believe you game and Daniel joined in. It devolved into a tickle session for both Lily and Daniel. Hearing Lily's squeals and laughter was both wonderful and heartbreaking. Seeing Daniel happy and laughing was a joy for my broken soul, because I knew the future held little of these moments. They teamed up to wrestle me, and I enjoyed seeing them work together even if it was against me. Father or not, by the time she's old enough to date, I'll have her able to say no with conviction. I put on some music, and since she was a baby, Lily has loved music. I have danced with her from her first week until the previous month. I'm sure I look goofy, but I don't care. We have fun. I got Uber Eats to bring takeout for dinner. We aren't Asian, but we sure ate like it. Daniel can down some lo mein for a 10-year-old, and Lily loves crab rangoon. I didn't eat much. My appetite is gone, but I enjoyed having dinner with them again. They both had school today, so I got them bathed, in pajamas, and ready for bed. Daniel likes to read a book as he settles down. I gave him a hug, told him I loved him, and that I'd see him in the morning. I tucked Lily into bed and read her a storybook, pointing out things in the artwork. She was about ready to nod off when I felt tears welling up. I kissed her on the forehead and told her I love you for the first time since finding out. Call me the biggest a-hole on the planet, but saying it felt like admitting it to myself. Everything in my life has been a struggle recently to figure out what is real and what isn't. My love for Lily is real. I love her, even if it feels different now. Right or wrong, I do. I went from not wanting to take anything away from her to wanting to give her everything. It's a huge difference. I was waiting for Lily to tell me she loves me. I know she does without her saying it, but she took the moment to say, "Mommy loves you." I made a point not to snap at her and asked sweetly, "Lily, why did you tell me that?" She said Mommy told her. I gently asked if Mommy just said that or if Mommy told her to tell me. It seemed my soon-to-be ex-wife had to explain why I hadn't visited, wouldn't be coming over, and why she wouldn't be coming home with them. She told the kids her parents' house was her new home, which I was glad about. But the I love you crap I had to get to the bottom of. I pried some more, and then Daniel came into the room. He revealed their mom had told him she wouldn't be coming home because I didn't love her anymore. What the F was I supposed to say to that? Blame me was not happening. I called our usual sitter and asked if she could come over for a few hours. Since the kids were already in bed, she agreed. I got into the car and made a beeline for my in-laws' house without calling first. When I arrived, I knocked on the door and asked to see Emma. Her mom led me to her childhood room where she was recuperating from her injuries. I turned to her mom and told her Emma and I needed to chat. She sensed I was on the verge of exploding, so she quickly left. As soon as the door closed, I asked Emma who the F she thought she was blaming our split on me, not loving her anymore. She said it was the truth. I told her maybe so, but the reason I could never love her again is because she is a lying, deceitful, worthless, promiscuous whore. Way to deflect blame from her role in everything. She said she'd already tried to apologize, but I didn't want to hear it. I exploded. I asked what good an apology would do. It wouldn't undo the damage, and it wouldn't prevent more damage from happening. Despite everything, I didn't believe she was truly sorry for what she'd done. I asked her how she could manipulate two innocent children to make me look like the bad guy if she had any guilt. I demanded to know when I became the villain who destroyed our marriage. Without hesitation, she told me it was when I refused to give her a second chance. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stopped her and asked how much pain medication she was on and if she was mixing it with alcohol. It was the only logical way I could see her thinking a lying, deceitful person like her deserved a second chance or any kind of respect. She lost all of that by her own actions. I don't even know who my wife is anymore. It's like she's possessed by someone else entirely. The woman I married has been replaced by someone unrecognizable, and it's a miracle my health hasn't been affected by her actions. I asked if she felt justified in destroying everything for the sake of sex. She claimed it wasn't just about the sex. I reminded her she said she didn't want emotional involvement. She said it was about validation. She liked being chased. When I questioned how she could see herself as being chased, she got angry, but she can deal with it. Actions have consequences that follow you for the rest of your life. Emma and I ended up talking for several hours. She admitted that during her depression after having Daniel, she felt so low she wanted to die. Despite having love for me and Daniel, she felt dead inside. She stayed out of work for an additional 6 months due to her issues. I got her the best doctors and treatments money could buy, which only made her feel more guilty. She felt overwhelmed and doubted if she should have ever become a mother. She withdrew from friends and apologized to me daily. I told her she had nothing to apologize for and just wanted her to get better. Maybe she was apologizing for what she was about to do. When Jessica came to the house unannounced, I was glad to see her. Jessica was persistent and kind enough to get Emma to open up. It took months before they had a night out, and just getting Emma to go to Starbucks was a victory. There are a lot of guys who think I'm a fool for letting my wife go to bars or clubs with a single girlfriend. Usually they'd be right, and I should have stopped it sooner. But at that time, getting her out seemed to cheer her up. She explained that becoming a wife and mother so quickly made her crave validation from other men. The first incident happened because she was drunk, but she admitted it was still a choice. She knew that if I found out, I'd never touch her again and she'd lose everything. I asked if she ever thought I'd find out, or how I'd react if I did. She said she knew it would destroy me and claimed she felt horrible about it. I asked why she continued to cheat. She said every time she sobered up after cheating, she felt guilt, shame, and regret. I remembered her being sad for a week after that first time. Jessica came over and they talked for hours. From then on, I had the old Emma back. She told Jessica she felt unworthy of me because of what she did. She knew if I found out, we were done. She decided to take it to the grave and tried to be the best wife she could be to make it up to me. Looking back, I can see the red flags, but at the time, I thought it was a miracle. Within 2 weeks, I was back to working part-time, then full-time, as Emma became a stay-at-home mom. The period just before and after Daniel turned 1 were some of the happiest times of my life. Finding out it was all because she was trying to make up for a betrayal changed those memories forever. I asked why she cheated again. Was I not good enough for her? I had always thought we had a great sex life, aside from her depression. She always acted like she enjoyed it. She claimed the longer she kept the secret, the worse she felt about herself. But unlike before, she couldn't show me how she felt. She knew I'd want to understand why she was feeling down so I could comfort her, but she couldn't bring herself to tell me. She claimed the internal battle of keeping secrets and pretending to be happy was too much to bear. She reminded me about the time I went to a reunion with my biological mom's family out of state. I took Daniel along to introduce him to her family for the first time, but Emma canceled at the last minute, saying she was ill. At that moment, there was nothing I could have done to stop her from cheating on me. That betrayal had already happened. However, I might have been able to prevent her from going down a path that would deceive me for 6 years, making me believe something precious was mine when it never was. I didn't blame myself. Her ass should have been on that plane. Actually, she should have already confessed to her infidelity and let me move on with my life. But instead, her multiple mistakes, compounded by lies, showed her complete disregard for the consequences. Now, that burden is mine to bear. That's something you do to an enemy, not someone you claim to love. She gave me some sob story about feeling so depressed that weekend while I was away. She knew she was unworthy, even if I didn't. She was punishing herself, even if I didn't know she deserved it. At least, that's how she rationalized it. She knew that if I found out, I'd see her as a whore and be disgusted with her. I never stopped showing my love or telling her how much she meant to me. But she said she realized that if I knew the truth, I wouldn't love her anymore. The attention I gave her didn't matter. It didn't hold the same weight because she knew she was unworthy of it. She feared I'd realize that too if I knew about her sleazy escapades. She claimed she called Jessica for support, and Jessica convinced her to go out for drinks. According to her, she spent the first part of the night crying and asking for advice. The bartender gave her a few shots to cheer her up. She didn't need to say it outright. Jessica nudged her towards flirting. She found herself kissing some guy in the back alley behind the bar, but stopped herself. She went back inside, feeling worse than before because she realized she had cheated again. More alcohol followed. Jessica had to ask the guy who just had his tongue down my wife's throat to help Emma inside. Jessica left them alone, and then clothes came off. I asked her if she ever thought about Daniel or me while she was betraying us both. She got angry and said she never betrayed her son. I made it clear that she betrayed not only me and Daniel, but also Lily, our parents, and everyone who witnessed our vows. She betrayed the sanctity of our family and marriage. But I stopped and just shook my head, telling her that despite what she'd done up to that point, she should have just let me go. I told her I would have looked after Daniel. She could have slept around with the whole state after our divorce. I told her I would have gladly written her name on bathroom stalls for her, but she didn't. She kept lying and cheating. Hearing it all disgusted me. She had an actual strategy after the first few guys. She didn't want them getting attached because she wasn't planning to go anywhere unless she had to. She wasn't looking for an emotional connection. She called it fishing. Getting a guy's number, breaking the ice, giving a little nibble, then pulling away to get him to pursue her, but on her timetable. She said she already knew I thought she was beautiful, so getting second opinions didn't seem like a bad thing at the time. I just looked at her, shaking my head. At any rate, the bartender is not Lily's father. That much we are sure of. He was months too early to have been the one, and she claims they only hooked up that one time. I asked if she could remember the names of the specific guys she was talking to and getting to pursue her. Maybe a couple of first names, but I wouldn't know where to find them. That was enough to shut down the conversation for the night. Yeah, I wanted more answers, but the details of the BS weren't coming out in one night, and that wasn't why I came there. She was seated in a chair, her cast propped up on pillows. I got inches from her face and told her she was a pitiful excuse for a human being, and I truly believe she had no soul. I told her that her actions had caused unimaginable pain and would continue to do so in the future, but I looked her squarely in the eyes and let her know I wasn't going to let her hurt my children anymore. I told her point blank that I was the one deceived for 6 years. If anyone deserved a little slack for focusing on their needs, it was going to be me. But Emma, I told her, and I meant every word, petty BS and manipulation would only make me loathe her even more. We were never getting back together. I was disgusted for her to even touch me. Loyalty wasn't even in her vocabulary. But father or not, I was going to be loyal to Lily. I was going to protect her as much as I could. And if I had to protect her from her mother's lies, manipulations, and deceit, So be it. I told her that Olivia has friends who would love a new BMW for getting her declared an unfit mother. I went there. It was a threat, and I meant every damn word. I told her if she had things to say, she could say them to my face. Getting Daniel or Lily to relay messages from their mother was not happening, ever again. Lily was to know little to nothing about any details of our divorce. And for now, paternity. When the time comes to reveal the truth, it'll be my responsibility to break that news to her. I'll explain how her mother victimized us both, but we survived together. There's no way I'm letting the person who wrecked so much for us downplay it or shift the blame onto me. As far as I'm concerned, that awful revelation can wait until it's absolutely necessary, and I'll decide when that moment is. I told her she doesn't have a lawyer and informed her that the kids would be staying with me for at least the next 2 weeks. She needed to reflect on the full extent of her betrayal and how her cruel manipulation will only hurt Lily. I'd let her know when she'd earned the right to be a mother again. There wasn't much she could do. I had the kids, and she was stuck in 2 casts. Let her deal with some loneliness. My God, I've made my share of mistakes. Driving home, I couldn't stop wishing I had known how things would turn out. This is the biggest struggle of my life, and I hope it stays that way. So much has been destroyed. The sham of a marriage I endured needs to be torn down, ground into dust, and salted so nothing grows from it again. But there's no reason to hurt a little girl who, for now, is blissfully unaware of the battle between her mother and me. I want to keep it that way. The kids shouldn't see us together. When Emma and I are in the same room, the air is thick with venom. That's beyond toxic. I won't subject the kids to that. I won't fight her in front of them, but I'll call out her BS at every turn. I'm sorry this has been long. Every decision feels like it has 1,000 consequences. People need to understand that the last thing I want is to hurt Lily, and I'm determined to be in her corner, fighting for her. I don't know how this will end, but that little girl and I got screwed over by the same person, and I'll be damned if I let her damage Lily like she did to me. Not happening. No one's coming near my daughter unless I approve. That won't be Emma's call. If I vet the guy and meet him, I'll decide if the day ever comes. Until then, Daniel, Lily, and I are weathering this storm. I've shielded them from the worst of it, and I'll keep shielding them from the fallout. But we're all going to bleed a bit before this is over. This disaster could have been avoided, but once the bomb goes off, you can't avoid the shrapnel. I'm sorry for venting. I meant this as an update, but it's all too much sometimes. I'm in therapy twice a week. I'm not sure if it's helping yet, but it's early days with the therapist, so I'll give it more time. I need to get to bed, so I'll post this and leave it for now. I won't post again for a while. It's helped to get some of this off my chest, so thank you. I need to focus on healing and making this transition as smooth as possible for the kids. Thanks for all the support and encouragement. Your words have been a huge help. I promise to pay it forward and help others here someday, just not today.